Hey Critical Analysis, this is your video for your Chapter 7 assignments. So we are in week 6. So Chapter 7 is right here in the week 6 to submit folder. I'm going to start with your discussion board post. So as always, your your weekly attendance is due by Wednesday for attendance points. And then if you post late, you can still get some of those points back, but you just won't get full credit. Also, keep in mind that we are nearing the end of the semester, in week 6 of 8. You want to make sure that you're interacting with classmates. I do keep kind of a tally going so that you can get your participation points at the end of the semester. So interaction means responding to someone's post in the discussion forum and not just saying something along the lines of I agree or good job, or like a meaningful response, answering a question, posing a question, sharing an experience, or building off of what someone else has posted. All of that is what you are looking for to get those participation points. So you want to make sure that you respond to this prompt. Give an example of how someone's personal point of view on a topic could impact their reading and discussion of that topic with someone else, because this chapter is talking about point of view and it's talking about bias. And so this discussion board really pulls in kind of your thoughts on how someone's point of view could interfere with someone else if you have different points of views. How could that really play into the conversation or the understanding of an idea? Excuse me. So that's your week 6 discussion post. All right, so chapter 7, you are submitting for me for chapter 7 after your discussion, the text and skill sheet, the vocabulary quiz, and then you have a mastery skill associated with this chapter. So let's jump right into the text and skill sheet. So you're going to download your text and skill sheet. Here it is. So if you have not already watched the chapter 7 lecture video, you might want to go back and reference that or pull up your chapter 7 text or your chapter 7 PowerPoint, because this whole first part, you can see there are 10 questions, basically deal with the concepts from the chapter. So if you need to have the PowerPoint going while you work on this, or go back and rewatch sections of the chapter 7 lecture, that is going to be helpful for you, because literally all of these are asking you to kind of answer or expand on or provide examples of the concepts from this chapter. So you're going to see things like implied meaning, connotative versus denotative, figurative and literal language, metaphors, irony. All of this is discussed in your chapter 7 lecture video, chapter 7 PowerPoint, chapter 7 textbook. So please use those as references while you are answering these questions. Okay. Coming down to part 2, A, B, and C all reference certain exercises in your chapter. So I'm going to pull those up. You can see part A says go to exercise 7.1. So I'm going to go into your textbook and I'm going to go to page 349. So I'm just going to scroll up here a little bit. You're going to see under what is inference, I'm going to pull it down, exercise 7.1, reading between the lines. And you are going to look at these two scenarios. These are recommendations, a job recommendation for Carlos and a job recommendation for Roger. Which one would you hire and why? So it doesn't come right out and say, here's why you should or should not hire this person, but there are hints in here as to who might be the better recommendation. And so your job is to tell me who would you hire and why. So don't just put down a name. Why? What is in the recommendation for Carlos or for Roger that would make you believe that they have the stronger recommendation and they're the one that, if you were an employer, you would hire them for that position? That is what you are working on for part A right here. Who would you hire and why? Part B, 7.6 on page 354. So we're going to go down here. If we were not pulled down, we would go to connotative language here. We would scroll down. Exercise 7.6 right here, connotation in textbooks. You can see that there are 3 just little blurbs here, but each one has an underlying word: boasted, hemorrhaging, and crawling. Now, your job is to tell me, you can see right here, is to tell me, are they using these words in a positive or negative connotation? And then what does that word mean? So are they using boasted positively or negatively? And what does boasted mean? Are they using hemorrhaging positive or negatively? And what does that mean? And are they using crawling positive or negatively? And what does that mean? So you're just telling me, is it a positive or negative connotation? And what does the word mean in that context? Because these can all mean a little different. things based on the context being used. Okay, so that is part B. And then part C, drawing conclusions, exercise 7.17. So we're going to go over here. It's on page 372. So if this wasn't pulled down, I would pull this down. Here it is, 7.17. And this is asking us to do passage 1. And this is going to be about Albert Einstein. So you're going to read the selection on Albert Einstein. There's a conclusion right here. And then your job is just to tell me what's the basis for that conclusion. Why did the author reach this conclusion? So you're going to have to derive from this passage why the author came to this conclusion. What is the basis for that? And that's what you're going to fill out right here. Okay. All right. So when you're done with that, you're going to submit it, save it, submit, put it in the Dropbox. Just another reminder, if you cannot see your file in the Dropbox, neither can I. So if you are using sometimes MacBooks, Chromebooks, Google Docs, even if you try to download right from Google Docs, all of those sometimes can present issues. So if you can't see it on your end, I definitely can't see it or download it. So just keep that in mind as you're submitting these assignments. All right, next is your Chapter 7 vocabulary quiz. So we're going to pull this up. So you've already, hopefully, watched the Chapter 7 vocabulary video. You've looked at the selections where the vocabulary words are used in context. So another part A reminder, I've said it a few times now, but I'm still seeing issues with this part. Using the word not does not correct the sentence. So if all you do is basically insert the word not or didn't, shouldn't, couldn't, those are all forms of the word not. You're not fixing the sentence. You're simply telling me you know how to put the word not in the sentence. You need to do something a little bit more substantial. Change some words around, insert some words, whatever you need to do. And also you're keeping that underlined word the same. You do not have to find a substitution for that word. Masqueraded, genteel, intermittent, those are all staying the same. You are just changing how they're being used to make sure it's correct. Another thing, I promise you not all of these are correct. There's usually only one that is correct in the whole lot. You have to correct at usually 3 or 4 of them at least. Okay, so make sure that you are not just writing the word correct on the line each time because that defeats the purpose. I promise you they are mostly incorrect and you need to do something to fix them. Part B, again, short answer. Just make sure you answer the question. Pay attention to these things that ask you for a specific number. And then part C, fill in the blank. Again, just reread the sentence back to yourself. Sometimes if you would just read it out loud, you would hear almost that it doesn't quite fit. So that's your Chapter 7 vocabulary quiz. All right, and the last thing with Chapter 7 is your making inferences mastery skill. Again, as I've talked about in the past, your mastery skills, all 10 are due at the end of week 8, but I do have you work on them as you go so that you're not so overwhelmed at week 8. And you're working and learning with the concepts as you work on the mastery skills. You only need to take one post-test unless you don't like your score the first time you take it. Let's say you get a 60 and you're like, I don't like that. You can take the next one and hopefully you get higher, and that's what Blackboard will take. So as always, you'll click in, make sure you go through, and this is just going to ask you questions on inferences, and it's going to ask you to make some inferences. Okay, so the same thing for post-test 2. All right, so those are your assignments for Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is going to all be due by the 17th. I had to look real quick. The 17th is when all of this is due, minus the attendance post. Make sure you post that by Wednesday the 13th. All right, until next time.